I'd like to welcome everyone to the June 4th Public Works and Planning Commission or Committee meeting. First on the agenda, we call a roll, please.
Commissioner Cush?
Present.
Commissioner Piercy? Here. Commissioner P?
Here.
Commissioner James?
Here.
Commissioner Dodd?
Here.
Commissioner Boyd?
Here.
Chairman Johnson?
Present.
Thank y'all.
Okay, we'll call on Vice Chairman Phil Dodd for the minutes.
Thank you, Chairman. When I pursued the minutes, I found that the ones published under Public Works were steering minutes, and I ask that we defer the approval of these minutes until next month or our next meeting.
A motion to defer the minutes until our next meeting, which will be in August. Do I have a second? Who made the motion? He did. Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. We have the Highway Department and Mrs. Hickerson. Welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Mary Hickerson, the Department Coordinator for the Rutherford County Highway Department. I am bringing two items to you. I'm not sure what you have first on your iPad, but we'll look at the drainage easement. It was approved unanimously yesterday morning at our road board meeting. This is at a location at 703 Central Valley Road. I don't know how many is familiar with the area, but Central Valley Road, this property is on the left before you get to the city subdivision that's called Liberty Station. This drainage is a temporary drainage easement that will, it is catching the water that sheet flows across the road and putting it in a drainage ditch, carrying it beside the lady's house instead of under her house where it currently flows. And sheet flows into that ditch, and the ditch will end up at the back of her property into a tributary to East Fork. And it is a temporary easement. Once we are finished with the work, after 6 months, it will revert back to the homeowner, and she is very aware that this is her area to maintain once we get it established.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
All right, the next item on the agenda is a budget amendment. It is to, our budget is in 4 different divisions, if you will. 3 of those 4, we are having to move some funds within our budget to cover retirement. When the retirement was figured and approved for the 23-24 budget, it was figured at 10.16% for retirement, and that was what passed our board and was presented to full commission. But once the budget was approved, it was actually approved at 11.11%. So that is caused trouble in 3 of the 4 areas that we've got. We will be a little shortfall, so we are moving money, a total of $10,500. We're moving from other charges and diesel fuel and other equipment in the 3 of the areas there. And if you got any questions or need more explanation, I'll be glad to help you.
Anyone have a question?
Are these adjustments already in your prepared budget for this next month?
Yes, the retirement for 24-25 is figured at 11.11%.
So this just rounds you up and gets you completely moving forward?
This will actually clean up the 23-24 because we figured at 10.16% when we worked the budget, and then at the final approval last June, it was approved retirement at 11.11%, and nothing was adjusted to ours. And so by having 1 or 2 empty spots, we've got one of the line items that we're not having to adjust because we've had some empty spots. But these right here, we're coming down to the to the wire and needing, we've already spent a little over 93% of each of these 3 line items. So to do this, this will get us up to and taking care of the remaining of the salary for our guys for this current fiscal year.
We have a motion? Second. And a second to approve this amendment. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? We need to do a roll call.
Commissioner Kush,
Aye.
Commissioner Piercy,
Yes.
Commissioner P,
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd,
Yes.
Commissioner James,
Yes.
Commissioner Boyd,
Yes.
Chairman Johnson.
Aye.
Thank y'all.
All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Chairman Johnson,
Yes.
there was a lady that signed up for and
Yeah. Commissioner P was going to remind me about the public comments, and I had skipped over that, so I appreciate that. We do have a lady here, Diane Parker. She's from Recycle Rutherford. Welcome.
Hello,
Well,
I'm Diane Parker. I'm with Recycle Rutherford, and I wanted to let you know about the Recycle Roundup they're having at MTSU this Saturday from 9 to 1. It's put on by the Tennessee Environmental Council, Tennessee. The website is tectn.org. I'm going to get a copy to you all by text. It's from 9 to 1, and they're taking things that normally couldn't be recycled at the convenience centers, like mattresses. There's a limit of 2. However, you can bring more. They'll charge you $10 per mattress until capacity is reached. They're taking tires. There's a limit of 8, and they'll charge you $1 a tire past that 8 once their capacity is received. They're taking styrofoam. They're taking paper for shredding and all the other recycling stuff, glass bottles, ink cartridges. They take tattered clothing, baby clothes, cardboard. They take electronics too, small electronics. So this again is at the Rutherford parking lot, MTSU campus, 602 North Rutherford Boulevard from 9 to 1, and I'll get a text of this sent out to you all. Thank you.
thank you. Next is Solid Waste and Convenience Center report. We don't have a physical report. We do have the report, as you should have seen on your iPads. Hopefully you've had time to look over that, and we can approve that report, or we can hold it off until our August meeting, whatever y'all want to do. And Bishop did tell me that the transfer station is right on schedule as expected. We've been having an average wait at Republic this month is an hour, and many of the trips are an hour and 3/4 to 2 hours. So hopefully we'll have that resolved.
Most of his report looks like normal. I'll make the motion to approve it if the rest of the committee is in line with that.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the report. Have a second? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Planning and Engineering, Director Doug Damasi.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. We have the normal items for our report tonight. The first item is our available lot inventory. If you look at that, you'll see the total available lots as of the end of May of this year was 1,050. That's pretty much unchanged from last month. It did go up just a handful of lots, like maybe 4 or 5. We did have a couple of, one specifically, larger section subdivision, Southern Harmony, recorded a plat this last month that had about 91 lots or so. However, we've also had a pretty good amount, stout amount of building permit activity. Ms. Bell will get to that in her report. But that pretty much kept our available lot inventory pretty much where it was, about 1,050. But you can see where that was versus this time last year. It's up about 200 lots or so. Last year at this time was about 868, 870 or so. So we are still running a little bit more of a surplus than we have been, but with permit activity picking up, you know, I imagine that'll fluctuate a lot as we've seen over the last several months. So I'll be happy to answer any questions on that particular part of the report. If there aren't any, Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I'll go ahead and continue on to the next part of our report.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, and that'd be our rezoning request report. I will point something out for for your information. We've got 3 requests on here. 2 of them are rezoning requests. One of them is a zoning ordinance amendment, which I'll get into here in just a little bit more detail in a moment. But I did want to call your attention to the memo that I sent out with your planning and engineering report. On the front page, it lists the action that was taken on those 3. The rezoning request for Old Nashville Highway, for whatever reason, I'm just going to chalk this up to copy and paste error. It says on the front page that that application is actually recommended for denial. It was not. It was recommended for approval, and it was a unanimous vote. The report that is included with your agenda packets is correct. I'll make sure that gets changed before the Board of Commissioner meeting next week. Commissioner Dodd, thank you for pointing that out. Again, that was my one mistake for that day, I guess. Anyway, so the first item that we have for rezoning request is by Laws Bolden. This is for property located along Shores Road. They're asking for light industrial zoning, currently zoned residential medium density. They would like to zone the property to develop it for warehousing type uses. Both of these facilities would house sales, service, and distribution companies that should have very little vehicle and truck traffic according to the information provided by the applicant. You'll see there was a concept plan in your agenda packets that was included by the applicant in their application. It's not binding, but it does give you an idea of the direction they're looking to develop this property. Most of the discussion we had on this wasn't so much about the proposed use of the property or the zoning, really concerned more the condition of Shores Road and the ability of it to handle larger truck or 18-wheeler traffic. Right-of-way width and structural integrity were the primary factors discussed in relation to the road. We did explain that should this application be approved, they would have to submit an engineered site plan prior to any development of the property, and that would have to go through the Planning Commission for their review and approval as well. We did state at the meeting that we wanted to see a traffic study that accounted for the condition of Shores Road and not just something that showed traffic counts. And any improvements identified in that study would be the responsibility of the applicant or developer to install. There were also some questions about buffering or screening along 840 and the frontage of the property and the possibility of billboards on 840 if this were to be zoned industrially. We did state at the meeting that our county sign regulations do not allow billboards on Interstate 840. They limit them to I-24. So following that discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a vote of 8-4 and 1 against. The second item, and this is the one I was referring to just a moment ago with the discrepancy, this is by Huddleston Steel Engineering for Jorge Lopez. This is along Old Nashville Highway. There's a slew of zoning changes that they're asking for on this one, and this is an application that has been through several meetings with the Planning Commission and also the Board of Commissioners. They are looking to zone the property to place a soccer complex. Really, it's for a private club primarily. I imagine they'll have some other activities there as time goes on, but that was the primary use. They currently meet at Oakland High School, and they're looking for their own facility, a bigger facility, so that's the reason that they are looking to do this application. So the changes they're asking for, they're essentially, right now it's zoned, there's a small portion, they bought a piece of property that has an existing house, it's zoned for residential purposes, RM. They're looking to zone that to commercial neighborhood. They're looking to zone some other portions of commercial general to commercial neighborhood, which is actually a down zoning in that regard. And then about 8.9 acres, they're looking to go from commercial general to planned unit development. That would be specifically for the soccer complex. So you would have just planned development zoning for the soccer complex, and everything in front of the property would be zoned commercial neighborhood. That's ultimately what they are asking for. There is a pattern book that was associated with this that is included on your iPads as well if you would like some additional information. I won't go into a whole lot of the details on the report that I have here. Suffice it to say that most of the discussion that we've had over the last couple of years on this application really dealt with adding turn lanes into the development from Old Nashville Highway. That's been kind of the overriding factor, you will, for the various deferrals and meetings and changes that we've had over the last couple of years. So this application here, the applicant at first was just committing to do a right-hand turn lane into the property with a phase 2 reevaluating the traffic to see if a left turn lane was necessary. They've committed to do right lane and left turn lane improvements into the property in phase 1. So everything's going to be at that first phase. So even the folks that, when they had the most recent neighborhood meeting on this, those were the main concerns that they had, were the traffic improvements. And during the public hearing on this, nobody spoke. And those couple gentlemen that came to the neighborhood meeting, I think that was really their biggest issue. So after a lot of discussion and the public hearing, again, which nobody spoke, the Planning Commission did recommend, again, approval on this by a unanimous vote. The third item on the agenda for your consideration is some zoning ordinance amendments, and this is in regard to the recently passed and approved stormwater ordinance updates. Our Assistant County Engineer, Sheila Huffmeyer, will be here as soon as I'm finished with this to kind of go over the details of that. Essentially what we're doing is just making some tweaks, if you will, to the zoning ordinance to go along with those updates, so that the stormwater ordinance and the zoning ordinance are consistent. You'll see on your iPads that there are just about a page or so of blurbs. You'll see the existing language and the proposed language in there as well. And you'll forgive me just a second, I'm trying to get to it on my iPad here. Under 1404C6, that's the site, or the portion of the ordinance that deals with site plan design requirements. You'll see that we've crossed out some language regarding the specific mention of the different stormwater manuals and regulations that we've adopted, and we've just put in the currently adopted stormwater manuals. And you'll see some additional language and changes in there as well. But nothing really is changing as far as how we enforce the ordinance. This is really just for consistency with that ordinance. So zoning ordinance amendments do have to be approved by the Board of Commissioners. A public hearing will be required, but there was nobody that spoke during the public hearing for this item, and it was approved unanimously. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions on any of these items.
Where are the changes? What page?
Let's see, the PDF page would be, the report starts on page 45 for this, of the PDF that, under my planning and engineering report, and the actual changes are on pages 46 and 47. It bled over just a little bit on the 47, but you'll see that the existing text is left alone, anything that's being removed is struck out, and anything being added is bolded and italicized.
Unless I'm not seeing something, I've only got 41 pages on my iPad.
you have any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion to approve? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay.
Thank you. If, with your permission, Sheila could come up.
Yes.
Yeah, Sheila Huffmeyer, our Assistant County Engineer, she'll come up next to discuss the Stormwater Management Ordinance.
Thank you. No, that's fine. You do it better than I do.
I was going to say, hi, I'm Sheila Huffmeyer, Assistant County Engineer. I'm just going to see what's on y'all's fancy little things here. All right. Okay, so basically the state put in a new rule, and the rule became a new permit, and then they implemented a new permit into our Phase 2 program. So I run the Stormwater program. I've actually hired a new person, so I now have a Stormwater coordinator that will take over running this program. But in the past, I've done everything. We're stayed in full compliance with it. It's a humongous ordinance with a whole lot of rules and regulations and things that we do. Some of you guys are on the Planning Commission, so you've heard my spill like about 50 times. Some of you aren't, so if you want any more details, I'm happy to talk to you anytime. Basically, with this change, the only thing we changed was what came down in the rule to the state to make us change, and that had to do with our water quality treatment volume. So basically, that's the only thing that we've changed in this ordinance. I did clean up a lot of definitions, cleaned up some language, which is what we're trying to clean up in the zoning and in our subregs. It's just, some of it's just housekeeping, but really the only thing that changed, let me see what page it's on, and if you guys want to hit that real quick, you can see. So if you go to chapter 4, and it's, let's see, how do we see what page this is, Doug? Is that 18 on the, so if you go to, this is 18 and 19? Yeah. So if you go to page 19 and 20, basically what I did was I copied it straight from our permit into our ordinance, because that's what we have to comply with. So it just changes our water quality treatment volumes. These are volumes that the consultants calculate as how much they have to treat, whether it's going into a pond, whether it's going into a bioswale, bioretention, permeable pavers, whatever they may be putting in for their stormwater treatment device. So that's really the only change that we've put in here, and that's what we had to. This goes through the Stormwater Advisory Committee. We do have a pretty good committee going now, and they're pretty active. We meet once a year. This time we had to meet a special call meeting in the spring so that we could get all this adopted. I'm required to have this adopted by September 1, but since commission doesn't meet in July, I didn't really want to wait till August. So that's why I'm here a little bit early. And I've also written it where it will not take effect until September 1. So this would go ahead and move to commission and pass through there, but it wouldn't become effective until September 1 for the new regulations. And that falls in line with whatever the state has told us to do. So basically, that's really the only change that's in there. You're going to see the number 7 is on the buffer zone policy. We ended up not changing any of it. So I didn't really mean for that to get on the agenda, but it's here. So I'm just going to tell you guys there was really no changes to that. The only thing I changed in that was a definition. So nothing changed on our stream buffer policy. We're going to keep the same policy we've had since I think 2011 maybe, or something. I have to go back and look, but I have the pieces of paper when it went through the Stormwater Committee and we adopted our stream buffer policy, because we're required by our permit to have one. So right now ours is based on the size of the streams. So it's the square mile drainage to the streams, and that's how we calculate it based on that. We kept that instead of changing it, which we were allowed to do because we already had it on the books. So that's really the only changes that's coming with the new ordinance. And it was basically, I did as minimal as possible, but to get us in compliance with where we needed to be. Otherwise, we don't want to be out of compliance with TDEP. y'all have any questions or anything you want me to expand on? I haven't been here in a while. I haven't been to Public Works in quite a while, so.
Mr. Cush.
Welcome to Public Works.
Hey.
So, Sheila, it looks like the 72-hour drawdown time is the same. So, in a nutshell, since we're leaning on NOAA now, or more so, will the detention ponds that we see in planning for subdivisions or any other property, in a nutshell, will they be getting a little bigger?
Yes.
Because of this? And
The water quality treatment volume piece of it will get bigger, not necessarily the pond size. Everybody's pretty much already, if you go back to page 19, he's talking about how they calculate the frequencies of the storm event. They're saying they're defining that we now need to use the NOAA Atlas 14, Volume 2, Version 3. That's pretty much what all the consultants are already using.
Okay.
Nobody uses the old Nashville IDF curves. Everybody's using this pretty much. So that's not really changing what people are using. That's what they're already using for volume, for inches in your storms.
All right. So
but I do expect to see the water quality treatment portions of those ponds to get bigger. Because before we were treating a 1.25 inch storm, now they're going to be treating 2.5 inches of the design storm, or the first 75% of the design storm, whichever is less. So they can run hydrographs, or they can straight figure the numbers and figure out what that volume needs to be that they need to treat, whether it's in a wet micro pool or however they're going to treat that volume.
For those of us that sit on planning, we may not see larger pond volume, surface area of ponds, but we may see bigger sediment basins or some kind of a pre-treatment kind of a thing.
Yes, or micro pools,
Okay.
yes. And they may have to make the ponds a little bit bigger to make it fit. But the volume, we didn't change the flow at all, because that doesn't really equate. The stormwater is just for water quality, not quantity. So our quantities and all of those and subregs did not change. We're not changing that.
Any other questions?
But this will need to be approved through county commission to make it an official ordinance.
Do you need a motion on this, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve and also tell her what a good job you've done.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Yes. Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, thank you. Good job.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Building and Codes Report. Tanya Bell.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. All right, so month of May, month May. Building codes issued total of 390 building permits. 104 of those were single-family dwellings for a total revenue of $290,345.50. We completed 1,542 inspections, building inspections, with a total of 16,635 miles driven. Does anybody have any questions on that? This month last year, we issued 428 permits, and 107 of those were single-family dwellings, so we're right on track to do the same thing. All right, and if nobody has any questions, and I have your permission, Chairman, I'll move on to school facilities tax and the development tax report. In the month of May, we collected $633,958 in school facilities tax and $7,500 in development tax. The majority of that school facilities tax this month came from Rutherford County. Rutherford County, we had $246,000, while Murfreesboro had $179,000, and Smyrna $167,000. Average square footage of single-family dwelling this past month was 2488, which is pretty typical. That usually toggles somewhere around 24 and 2,500 square feet. All right, so that brings our annual total to $6.2 million for school facilities tax and $69,000 for development tax. All right, and I'll move on. Anybody got any questions on that? Nope. Zoning enforcement, we did a total of 324 inspections in the month of May, and the majority of those were re-inspections. For the last 5-6 months, we've had a change in we have 3 staff members in zoning enforcement, and we changed up 2 of those, and the 2 new ones have been knocking it out of the park. So you'll notice that there's an extra about 100 re-inspections. So they've been going back and trying to close out some old cases and revisit some cases that were kind of hanging in limbo. So that's why the number's so high. And that concludes my report.
Do you have any questions? Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve and a second. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Okay, we have other business. Any other business? I'd like to say Saturday evening from 5 until 9:30 we have Simply Smyrna in Smyrna downtown. I had the privilege of seeing the Fool's Gambit today. That's a United Kingdom dance troupe. Very impressive. Wished I had the energy and the breath that they have. It was quite remarkable, but they will be down there performing between 5 and 9:30ish down in the depot area, along with 3 other international groups. So they're all over this county this week. So if you can, just catch them at one of the events. If not before Saturday, come to Simply Smyrna. We stand adjourned.